for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/FREE. ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause on the Roundtable on a beautiful Thursday morning. As we're enjoying June, the weather so far has been great, although it's supposed to be a little warmer. Today we've got two guests, and this is going to be an interesting discussion. We have Dr. Quentin Newhouse Jr. Dr. Newhouse had been in the past dean at Strayer University here in Nashville, but now he lives in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I'll be very curious to see how a Nashvilleian enjoys and finds life the same, different in Quebec. Good morning, Quentin.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
How are you doing? How's the weather in Quebec?
We're much better now. We were having a bit of problems with the fires that we had down several hours away from us, the wildfires, but things are better now. We've had
Good.
firemen come in from quite a few places and to help out, so it's much better now. And it's fairly warm now. Canada's known for being rather cold, but we're warm now.
We've had that smoke coming down to Nashville for several days last week. And
Sorry about that.
Absolutely. It had your name on it. It said, have a great day. And also I'm going to introduce a gentleman I've also known for a long period of time, Dr. Calais Mugilan, yes. And he's going to be joining. He's got a similar background to you, Quentin. We're going to be talking about the psychology. But first,
Okay.
I've got a word from Motlow State, and I think this is of interest to many people out there. They're having an adjunct recruitment fair looking for adjunct instructors in numerous disciplines. If you have a master's degree from an accredited institution and a heart for teaching, then meet with Motlow at teacher fairs at 3 of their 5 campuses. On June 20th, they'll be meeting at the Moore County campus in the EOF building. On June 22nd, next Thursday, they'll be meeting at the Smyrna campus in the Hyatt Spivey Center. And on June 29th, they'll be meeting at the McMinnville campus at the McMinnville Center. All events for the adjunct will be from 6 to 8 p.m. They'll have light refreshments as well as several small prizes that you can win at a raffle at the end of the night. If you have any questions, please call Leah Sear at 931-393-1686. That's 931-393-1686. Quentin, first tell us about your background, where you went to school, where you were born, the Quentin Newhouse journey of life.
Okay, I'll see what it takes to sum that up in a few sentences. I was born in Washington, D.C., the capital, quite a few years ago, and was educated in the Washington, D.C. public school system. I'm proud to say that I was part of the first class of desegregation in the early 50s. That's kind of my age. And I enjoyed really the public school system and decided to go to school at Marietta College in Ohio. It's a small school, it's still very small, about 2,000 students. And I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. Then I came back to Washington, D.C., got a master's and a PhD from Howard University in psychology. And so that's been I've lived not only in Washington most of my life, but I lived in Tennessee for 6 years. I lived in Durham, North Carolina for about 6 months, and then I moved here to Canada. I've been here in Canada for about 16 years.
And but you still have a certain love, and you still have family in Nashville.
I do. I do have my sister and her family in Nashville. We visited, my wife and I visited them for Easter. She has 3 children and 7 grandchildren, so that was quite an event. So, having that many people in one spot, about 12 people in one spot in family. So yeah, I saw family in Nashville. We visited her for Easter and enjoyed seeing her again.
And before we get into discussion, Calais, tell us your background.
So I was born in Malaysia.
And most people do usually think Singapore and Malaysia are the same thing, but they're not.
They're not. They
No, they're
used
not.
to be, and then they came apart. Anyways, I was born there. I came to Birmingham, Alabama in 1987. Got my undergraduate and my master's and my PhD all in UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham. And then worked at a private college for a minute. I worked for the Alabama Department of Public Health for a minute. And then I ended up my wife wanted to be at Vanderbilt. So she moved and I moved with her and the children came along. And I'd been in Nashville almost a decade now.
And you're teaching currently at Fisk?
Yes, I teach currently at Fisk. I'm teaching statistics. Hopefully I'll get some healthcare management classes along the way as well.
I usually call statistics when I taught it once, and only once, I called it statistics.
This statistics for the, I call it the nominally insane. Statistics
All
for-
those are lies. All those are lies. All of us are natural statisticians.
Oh yeah, well, everything's just a number. That's the key way I teach
That's
statistics.
right. That's
I worked for the Census Bureau, by the way, for 6 years,
I
and I
see.
was a statistician with the Census Bureau, so I was involved in the 1980 census. So I love numbers.
And you always kept your census.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
So the Department of Public Health, I was the mortality analyst.
Ooh.
So I counted dead people. That was the joke that went on in the at the office. Like, yeah, he counts dead guys. Like all death certificates
boy.
came to me.
Did they call back?
I hope not.
No. Let's talk about psychology with business, psychology with business people, people who are working, consulting, etc. Quentin, kind of go over what you've been doing in recent years. You're a coach to people, not a coach to the Titans or the coach to any team, but you're a coach to individuals. What are
Yeah, I'm
some
business coaching.
a business,
I'm a business coach,
and what-
internationally certified business coach.
and what are some of the
And,
things you do?
I deal with issues like hiring. So if I have clients who are trying to find out who they should hire for a particular position, and I try to use a few assessments to try to match a person to a position based on maybe their background, and their aptitude, or some kind of aspect about that. And then I also do succession coaching. So you have people who are considering retirement, and they have to make a decision if they want to either turn over the business to a family member or someone within the business itself. I also do management, like program management. So I look at what happens within an organization in terms of whether or not they're productive or not. Look at issues like motivation, morale. And I go in, I'm hired as a consultant to come in and say, hey, someone's unhappy. Let's figure out who's unhappy and why they're not producing. And then what I do is I come in and I ask a series of questions and come up with an assessment that tells the owner exactly what's going on. The good thing about doing that, Bill, is that I'm in and out. A lot of times what I have to say is makes the owner unhappy because the answer is it's you. That's the problem. It's not them. It's you. They say that you don't give them all the information they need to be successful. That's why you have a high turnover rate. That's why you have low morale. And that's why you have people grumbling about what's going on. I also have a business here in Canada I've had since 2012. It's a corporation. And what I do with that also, I do professional grant writing. So I have quite a few clients who not only are about to build their businesses, but they're building it through grants. And so I look at foundations, and I look at our clients in the States, and look at also problems they have in the States getting grants, and I help them write grants and get them funded. So that's what I do here.
I've got to ask you this question, not really related, and then I'll be also asking Kayleigh the same question about motivation. Tell us what a Nashvilleian like you for 6 years, what's the similarity and what's the dissimilarity of living in Montreal, which most people may or may not realize that Montreal is more French in culture, language, history than it is English and Canadian.
Well, that's very true. First of all, I'm emerging bilingual. I understand a lot more than I speak, but I find that I'm speaking more now than before. Some mornings you get a hello, bonjour. There is an emphasis here to preserve the French language. I find that downtown, depending on the size of the organization, you find signs that are not only in English or also in French. In Chinatown, they're in Chinese as well as in French. So there's a French emphasis here that's very historical. But I find that it's an amazing place to live because of the cold.
Oh, you like the cold?
Here. I said, well, you get used to it because Canadians are very hardy. That's joint citizenship. So the Canadians are very hardy. And it's interesting. What you do is you follow the snowplow. So it doesn't matter how deep the snow might be. You get behind the snowplow. When the snowplow plows the snow to the ground, you keep going. And they come out with their skis and come out with all kinds of winter equipment. And just keep going. And it's nice and cold. It clears up everything, and you're able to breathe well. And some people don't like it, they leave. But the good thing about it is it's cold enough here to be able to preserve what's going on in your body, and it's good for the body. And also, one other thing, Bill, people don't realize also there are parts of Canada that are not inhabitable because it's just that cold. So most people live like Vancouver and Montreal, Toronto. They're more outlying areas than the colder areas out west.
It's kind of interesting. Some years ago, not that many years ago, the preservation of the French language, as you referred to, was a very, very serious political division. In fact, Quebec had a referendum on a proposal to pull out of the nation and create its own French-based nation. And the Canadian government ultimately mandated the Canada as a bilingual state, and everything is both in English and French, signage, written documents, and so forth. So the French culture has been certainly preserved through government process.
Very strong. Some instances you get forms, you get them in French, and you have to ask for them in English. You go places, and a lot of the stores, the people only speak French, or they have the products are in French on one side and English on the other. So it's very well integrated into the culture and society here.
Let's get into motivation, and both gentlemen talking about motivation. That's a key word when you're talking with businesses, when you're talking with students, of course, motivation, when you're talking with family, children, friends, etc. What would you say are some of the primary and not necessarily textbook definitions of motivation? What is something that an individual can do every day when they wake up and motivate those around them, motivate those they work with, motivate mainly those who are driving next to them on Church Street here in Murfreesboro? Either one who would like to talk about motivation?
So I'll go. So motivation is a big deal. It gets us up in the morning. I think the other word for motivation is hope. If you have no hope, you're done. But then on the other hand, I teach emotional intelligence in the classroom in small office setting. And I talk about noticing what you're feeling. And if you get to feel it, you get to think again. So I think about motivation as to stop, slow down, notice what you're feeling, and give it some attention. And then regain your frontal lobe thinking again to get going and keep going. And that's my 2-second elevator speech about.
You did that well. I had a full course on motivation, and you did that well. I think motivation is, to me, it's being able to identify and celebrate the small things in life. Most people are motivated some people get motivated by money. They're motivated by status. They're motivated by a title. But I to get up in the morning and knowing who you are is motivation. And being able to get up and go somewhere and be able to have the freedom to do that also is motivation. And so for me, it's drive. It's a drive to do something. If you look at the theories, it's a drive that's reduced by some kind of goal. The closer you get to the goal, supposedly the more satisfying it might be. But I think in this society, we need to find more things that are motivating, that are small issues, the smaller issues in life, rather than, forgive my phone, the bigger issues that are associated with motivation.
I have known both of you gentlemen for a number of years. Quentin, I've known you for probably 12, 14, 15 years. Calais, not as long, but a number of years. And I will describe both of you in one way. You always have a smile on your face. You always have a pleasant comment. You both show true empathy to other people. You listen to other people. You hear other people. And you respond and reflect in a positive way. Have you always, both of you, been so positive and enthusiastic and high energy with others? Because Those are words that would describe both of you, at least in my experience.
Dr. Krause, it's partly because of you. You are who you are. You are also incredibly motivating and positive, and the number of things that you do with your head still in balance. And so
Not always.
Not always, but it's partly you, I think. And it is true. It is, I think at the end of the day, it is choice. It is making a choice, happiness, motivated, wanting to live. There is an element of choice in wanting to do that no matter what is happening. I have an autistic son to get up and say, no matter what, I want the day to play out in a particular way. My son asked me the same question, why are you so happy while I'm so difficult? And I said, it is my choice to be happy, and I want this journey to have meaning and joy in it.
Exactly. And
Well,
Quentin?
I think for me, it's understanding there are a lot of negative things that exist and happen in life. If I go into that situation with a negative attitude, I'm already going downhill. I find if I watch the news and it's very sad, I come in with a sad attitude, it makes me even sadder. So being a middle child and only boy, I found in my life I've always been the kind of the motivator of the family. I've been the negotiator, and I found that having a fairly even temper has made a difference in my life. When I found that people who are very high-tempered ended up having all kinds of ailments, whether high blood pressure or having strokes and heart attacks. But I found that being fairly even-tempered, and I agree with him. I'm kind of the moon of your sun. You generate that to us, Bill, and we reflect that. But I found that works well. Being an administrator, I find if I was kind of even-tempered, it worked better when people came in with all kinds of hidden agenda and all kinds of attitudes and experiences that were negative. I found that by staying positive, it allowed me to deal with a lot of life experiences a lot better. And then finally, being Canadian, having to come here and adapt to Canada, I had to be somewhat even-tempered to deal with the difference in culture, the difference in location, the difference in application of things I do for a living. And I find it makes me healthier, and I think it makes me happier.
We'll be right back. We're speaking with Quentin Newhouse all the way from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and a friend sitting next to us, Calais McGillen. I'm going to get that. McGillen?
Mugillan.
Okay,
Students call me Dr. M. So
Dr. M. That sounds better. That sounds better. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Looking for a charming home close to downtown and MTSU? Look no further than this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 0-lot line at 1341 Sharon Court. This home features a spacious living room, an open kitchen, and a primary suite on the main floor. It could be perfect for a family or a couple who wants to live in the middle of everything while still in a private neighborhood. Call for a showing today, 615-542-1915. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Del Walmsley and the Wealth Cycle.
This is the wealth cycle that I've taught for 30 years. Buy one house, 10 houses, an apartment, 2 apartments, 8, 20, 500 units, 1,000 units, 2,000, 5,000 units. And as you keep putting the money and the profits back in, you become one of those rich people. And much quicker than you'd even believe.
Learn Del's Wealth Cycle at GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. Use promo code 2023. Save 60%. Code 2023. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com.
All right, guys, there's a lot of people talking about testosterone, but make sure you do your homework and go to a provider that you can trust. I recommend Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked. Low T Center exclusively specializes in men's wellness. They check all your levels, not just your testosterone, and then they determine the cause of any symptoms you're having and whether you're a candidate for low T or something else like low thyroid or sleep apnea. Typically, their annual health assessment is completely covered by health insurance. And they check everything, including PSA, which is your prostate level. And they check thyroid, liver, and kidney function, cholesterol, glucose levels, and more. Low T Center has affordable and convenient options for treatment, including monitored self-inject treatment that ships directly to you each month, so no need to come to the center each week. Make your health a priority and schedule your annual health assessment at Low T Center today. It's covered by most health insurance or less than $100 cash pay. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
It's Good Neighbor Events, brought to you by Cardinal Realty Solutions, the law offices of John Day, and AmeriCare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
WGNS encourages you to shop local, and it's also important to listen local. Here's something you need to know. There's a grief support group every Wednesday morning at 10 at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. And the Juneteenth Festival is over at the Bradley Academy Museum and Cultural Center this Saturday from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. They even have a kids zone, food vendors, artists, and live music. Juneteenth is one of the oldest nationally celebrated commemorations of slavery that ended in Galveston, Texas back in 1865. The Juneteenth Festival is over at Bradley Academy Museum and Cultural Center Saturday from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And it's free. Don't miss the Women's Club of Murfreesboro's wedding dresses across decades and cultures. That's at the Women's Club, 221 West College Street, now through June the 18th. That's on Fridays and Saturdays from 10 in the morning until 5 in the evening, and Sunday from 1 to 5. The admission, $15. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good neighbor weather. We'll see a few scattered showers and storms at times this afternoon. A blend of clouds and sunshine develops with a high into the upper 80s. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 69.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE Sharing Change has now donated more than $11 million to local nonprofits assisting worthy causes in our community. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
This is Bill Krause back on the second round of the Roundtable, having a delightful visit with Dr. Quentin Newhouse all the way from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and Dr. Kelly Mugiland. I got it.
Sure did.
New Zealand.
3 times and I'll make it. And we've been talking about motivation. Let's also take another topic, whether it's people in business or people in life. How should people deal with anger and frustration? We have that all the time, of course. But how should we deal with anger and frustration, whether it's professional or whether it's personal? Quentin, you want to take a stab at it?
Sure. I think that what often happens is people put a lot more emphasis in their emotions than is necessary. People I found in terms of road rage, found an increase in the amount of road rage, not only here, but also in the States, where people are responding in a way that's not, I guess, commensurate with what they experience. And so one of the ways to deal with anger is to identify the source of the anger. Why am I so mad? What has made me this angry? And try to actually de-escalate that, because there's so many negative consequences that can come from that, whether it's at home or whether it's at work or even if it's out in the road itself or out in the street. So I say that people to look at the source of the anger. What has made me this angry? Is it something that triggers this from the past, or is it something that specifically causes me to get mad every time it happens? And then de-escalate that, because it really isn't that serious. It can have consequences that are serious.
You know, it's kind of interesting on road rage, and I just read something on this recently. Mm-hmm. There was a correlation between road rage and people being late to some place. And people not time management in an appropriate way, and they were supposed to be at a place at 8:30, a very important place, might have been job-related, doctor's appointment, etc. And they got a late start from home, and they're attempting to make a 10-minute trip in 3 minutes. And when somebody's in their way, beep, 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 and they become very road rage. Calais, how should people deal with anger and frustration?
I have a lot to say about this. But to tag on to Dr. Newhouse. So one of the things I say, you do want to look back, but how do you look back is to actually ask, how old is this feeling? Even if it is a positive feeling, you can ask that question. But generally, loneliness, sadness, anger, or disappointment, to simply stop and say, how old is this feeling? And memories come up. I have encouraged my students to write them down if you can't talk about it yet, to actually write those anger down. But in the moment of it, the simple ones are to breathe, just to send more oxygen to your brain, to retain your thinking. But generally, that simple question of asking, how old is this feeling? And whatever memory comes up, is not to question the memory. I am a big believer in feeling your feeling in the right place with the right person. Try not to do it by yourself. To be with someone and feel the feeling, have someone who can support you to feel the feeling so you can think again. Just like at a funeral, you go in, somebody who does not cry at a funeral usually struggles. To be able to give them space to really feel the hurt, the loss, and the healing begins. So I'm a big believer. I think we're naturally wired because nobody taught us how to behave at a funeral, but we all know how to lower our voice, not to outdo the other person who's mourning, to give them space to feel it, but to give ourselves permission to feel hurt, loss, sad, and ask the question, how old is this feeling? When did this begin? You may not have all the answers in this lifetime, because we also, epigenetics will tell you we have fears and anxieties from past lives. Sounds kind of weird and kooky, but epigenetic, that's why we still have, most of us are afraid of snakes and bugs. We're still a little wired from our ancestries, the struggles our past ancestors have gone through. It's still wired in us. To process and be present with it, I think, helps us retain our thinking.
Very, very
That's
good.
a good point.
Quentin.
I would like to add to that. I think it's also important to develop support systems.
That's right.
Someone you could vent with, someone that of value you can vent with, that is at least is willing to listen. And again, as a coach, I don't say I understand everything, but it's understandable. It's understandable that you feel that way. It's normal that you feel that way. And so have someone who's willing to listen to you, as again, to de-escalate that anger. You get it out. I'm frustrated. This was normal to see you to be frustrated about that situation. It's understandable. So what are your options? And I think that most of the earlier studies talked about frustration leading to aggression, but there are other ways that you can express that frustration. And so if you find acceptable options, other coping strategies, other than just getting angry and blowing up, through, for instance, social support networks, calling somebody. It could be a friend, it could be a relative, and just vent. I just really can't get promoted. I can't seem to get ahead. My car keeps breaking down. And you'll find that person may just give you a chance to vent, and then you'll be able to develop coping strategies, as you say, through breathing, that allows you to say, okay, this is a more acceptable way for me to respond than I have in the past.
I say make plans with your friends and family, like, hey, let's you and I talk where we can exchange time. We won't advise each other like a counselor, but let each other actually be present and let the feeling out. My wife and I, when she goes off, I'll say, what do you want me to know by the end of this? And she'll label it at that point. I just want to vent, all right? I say, okay, go right ahead. Or sometimes she said, no, after this, I need some thoughts. I'm like, okay, we know what we're doing.
It's an interesting point, even on venting, is to almost watch it like a musical presentation, that it has to reach its high point. Let it go. Don't interrupt. Don't intercede. Let it go to the peak, and then as it's on its way back down, then you have the chance to intervene.
Right, and don't judge.
Don't judge.
Don't judge.
And how do we avoid? How do
Yeah.
we avoid judging?
Well, you know what? Silence is one issue, one technique of not judging. Sometimes not interjecting your opinion based on the fact, on the notion you don't have all the facts associated with why this person is angry. Well, you shouldn't be angry. Why shouldn't I be angry? I find that feelings are indefensible. That's one of the problems people have in coaching, is that feelings are indefensible. Where I feel is how I feel, and that's indefensible. And so to tell me not to be mad and not to be upset is going to make me madder, make me more upset. It's better to vent. It's better to vent. Let me vent, and then say, okay, it's understandable you feel that way. What are you going to do about it? What's next?
So the judging piece, I often say, trust the other person knows best. And that allows me not to judge, not to speak, not to bring it up even afterwards. Like, they know the best. They're having a moment, let them have it. They know best, not me. So it allows
That's why
me
it's
not
discernible to
judge.
get the right person.
That's right. That's right. You make arrangements. You meet someone like that. You keep them in your list.
Well, I guess I have the one issue in being a political science major and a political science teacher for all these years, is that I totally agree with you. But what if they're based on totally wrong information? They are using fact that is really not fact. Actually, could be a total lie if you really want to put it that way. So how do you deal with somebody who is, quote, venting, and their vent is based upon totally misinformation?
I often ask them, what is that based upon? What is your reality regarding that situation? What's the evidence based on that? And I also ask the question, how is that serving you? If that's something you've been doing for a period of time, how is that serving you? If it's not serving you well, perhaps you want to consider some other options that might serve you a little bit better. And because oftentimes the people are working on those fallacies, they're not working. They're not operable. They're not working.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So recent research says do not challenge them. Let them have their moment. Let them feel whatever they need to feel, and then ask genuine, just absolutely genuine questions. Like the flat earther, for instance. What happens to the ship as they cross the sea, as the sail goes down? What the things simply ask questions, and not to challenge them at all. In fact, research shows anytime somebody is challenged when they're functioning out of a fallacy, is they dig in deeper. And it doesn't take us anywhere. To simply stay neutral, do not state your opinion. So when I do classes, we talk about gun control, abortion, like painful political topics in classroom, I will ask the students to say, tell me what you wish I knew. I'm the whatever I am. I'm only here to listen, and then I'll feed back whatever they've told me. This is what you want me to know. I say, got it. And then I make sure other people don't respond to it, and let them simply speak what they wish other people knew. When people hear it, or they themselves hear themselves, something happens. And when it is heard in a respectful kind, while it is hard to do when it is based on a fallacy, not to laugh, not to pinpoint any flaws in it, but to stay with the person and let them go at it and ask questions.
Let's get into a broader sense, and this is kind of rather esoterical. Love that word on a Thursday morning. Talk about the value of achievement in life. What's the value of achievement in life? And Quentin, this is part of the basis of your coaching, I can appreciate.
Well, I actually have a little bell that I bought from Amazon. It's the kind of bell you have at a hotel where you want service.
Ding,
and
ding.
The purpose of that,
ding,
ding, ding, ding. The purpose of that bell is to celebrate small achievements. So I'm having the opportunity to be on this show with you today. I'm going to ring my bell. Being able to get up and go out and see this beautiful day, I'm going to ring a bell. My wife always makes me great meals. I ring a bell. And so I think what happens is people are looking for larger achievements, and oftentimes it's like the carrot on the stick. You get there, and then you never really achieve what you thought you were going to achieve, and you go into something else. So I guess my short answer to that is find opportunities for short celebrations and achievements. Getting up this morning, being healthy, being happy, having healthy children,
answering the telephone.
Yes.
and find the telephone. Just small things you can say. Okay, I was able to do that. Also, find objects that are achievable, not pie in the sky. Something that's right there in front of you that you can get done. Getting through the day without getting upset might be an achievement. Getting through the day without having a snag somewhere might be an achievement. And so you find those little achievements, and you celebrate those achievements and build upon it. In psychology, we call it successive approximation. You get something small, and you build on that to the higher level achievements.
And I'll get you in a second,
yes.
But I always tell students in a college success class or first-year experience class, if you have to make lists of things to do per day, make your lists. But here's the issue you have to decide. Do you do the most difficult thing first and get it out of the way? Or do you do the very simple things building up to the difficult thing, and by the time you get to the difficult item, you say, wow, I've had a great day. I brushed my teeth and I washed my face. I'm doing wonderfully, and now I can do this big, big challenge. Which do you do on the list? The biggest, most difficult first and get the other things afterwards, or vice versa? Khalid?
Wow. So when I first heard you say it, my response was, I remember Dr. Graham when I was an undergrad saying, everybody needs to taste excellence. Like they need to know what that tastes like so they can go after it. However, I have a practice that I do at home with my family on a regular basis to simply sit down in the evening while we're in bed, say, what did you do today that you're really proud of? What are you thankful for? And then it's a very detailed answer. It's like, oh, I'm glad to be alive is not going to fly. You have to tell something very specific that you did. Like tonight, if my wife, if we happen to do it tonight, I'd say, I was totally surprised to be in a radio show and I'm totally psyched by it. And to do the little details, my daughter will say amazing things. My son will say amazing things that I would have never expected them to be thankful for. And I think it ties into achievement. I think it ties into a sense of well-being. It ties into like, wow. Because what I think is valuable to me, like the examples you said, that brushing your teeth, may not be, it is to somebody out there, brushing the teeth is an achievement. But things that we think is an achievement to our own journey, like today my son did not have a meltdown before his exam. So that's a big achievement for me. Personally, it's not important to anybody else, but that gives me a sense of achievement, a sense of well-being. Being thankful sips in, and I live in a place of thankful gratitude. It's like, call it a battery, because without gratitude, it's tough. It's tough to do life. I call gratitude battery. Be thankful for everything.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reflect on that, because any given day, you never know what you're going to encounter.
That's right.
And I think that if you have a range of coping strategies for that day, it may very well be, okay, this didn't work yesterday, but it worked today. And again, understanding this oak tree came from this little nut. Little nut. The oak tree came from that nut. It didn't happen overnight. It took time. And you have to be patient with yourself in terms of how you're achieving. And again, different people are motivated by different things. As I said before, it could be a status, it could be a title, it could be money, it could be just recognition. And what I do in coaching is I look at, first of all, validation. You validate somebody, and then you acknowledge them. I heard what you said, and it has value. It makes sense to me because it makes sense to you if they have value. And once they have some kind of validation and some kind of acknowledgement, they can go from there, no matter what it is.
And this is very true, not just in the business world, it's personal. It's your life, absolutely. Can you set your goals too high that they're unachievable, and consequently you become very frustrated or angry at yourself?
Sure you can, if you don't know the steps to the goal. If you don't know the steps associated with the goal. Some things come before other things. And so you have to be able to set an order in place, but you also have to understand there are steps to that goal. It didn't just happen overnight. It happened because of the steps associated to get there. And if you're willing to sacrifice and you're willing to follow the steps, so assuming they work, then you can get to what appears to be an unachievable goal. And I've done it. I was the first person in my family to get a doctorate, and everybody was amazed because it took quite a while to do that. But I understood the steps to the goal, and I was willing to follow those steps to the goal.
And this element of doing it, like I'd rather die trying and hoping than having had given up. So if there is this path out there, it's to some extent achieving it is wonderful. To another extent, being in the process of arriving is also amazingly powerful in itself.
Right. And Coach, we call baby steps.
Right.
It's a baby step. What's the first baby step you could take, and then say that you feel successful taking that baby step? Okay, and then you got one, just take another one. How about another one? How about another one? And then you look back and say, wow, I was able to do that bit by bit. And it becomes achievable as you break it up in pieces.
And the best analogy for that, Quentin, the best analogy is a football field.
Absolutely.
And a football field has a goal. It's called the goal post. You want to get across that line, make your 6 points plus the kick. So your goal is getting to the end of the field. Your objective is first down, 10 to go. And
10 yards to go.
10 yards to go. So your objective becomes getting the first down, getting the first down, getting the first down, and carrying the ball over the line. Goals and objectives. Used to always say goals were a year or longer. Objectives were less than a year. Is that a fair description?
Mm-hmm.
If you were talking about your goals and objectives, long term versus
depends.
short term. Okay.
It depends. I heard it all depends on the situation and the goals. It all depends, and your awareness of the reality of the goals for you. Sometimes everyone can't be a doctor, a medical doctor, unless you understand what it takes to do that. And so you shouldn't be frustrated if you don't understand what it takes to do that, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be an athlete, professional athlete. You got to understand some of the sacrifices that it takes to do that. If you're willing to make those sacrifices, you have a good chance of achieving the goal.
So, and addressing to the word objective is to the general being, and goals will be the steps to get there. Recently, I've heard, having a compass gets you there, and you sort it out along the way. But having a map is a lot more solid, clean, steps at a time. But we need both, and if you lose the map, if you have the compass, you still will figure it out where to get, and at least the general direction you want to go.
I want to jump on that also, because not only do you need a compass, you also need a true north.
True north.
To me, you got to know what works.
That's where you went. That's where you went, Quentin. True north.
That's where I am. I went as far north as I could get. Yeah, you have to have a true north. You have to know what works for you. It may not work for someone else, but it works for you. So this is my true north. I'm true to myself. I'm true to my goals and values. And this is something that matches that. Because you have a lot of people who are going into professions. You know that. We all know this as educators. They go into professions and they get graduate degrees and get certifications, and they never use them. They're unhappy. And they're going to end up being unhappy if they've spent 10, 15 years trying to perfect a particular occupation. And so if you were following your true north, you would know this is not something it's something I can do, but I don't want to. I don't want to do it. It's not of interest to me.
We'll be right back for our third and final session of the Round Table, having a really spirited and good discussion. Stay with us. We'll be returning.
Where is the best barbecue in town? In 1920, East Main. The best barbecue for miles around is in 1920, East Main. You can buy it by the pound, sandwich, platter, or plate. No matter what you choose, it will taste great. You can come with a friend, by yourself, or with a date. Just Slick Pig Barbecue. Barbecue pork, beef, or chicken, Brunswick stew, great sides, lunch specials, down-home atmosphere, and they cater. Slick Pig Barbecue, it's the best.
Need a great gift for Dad? Find it this weekend at French's Shoes and Boots Father's Day sale. Keep Dad looking good with a new pair of those popular Hey Dude shoes on sale starting at just $39.99. And take $10 off any pair of men's boots over $100. That's even more savings on top of French's already unbeatable prices. This weekend only, get to the French's Shoes and Boots Father's Day sale, where you'll find great deals on the perfect gift for Dad.
Shop at French's Shoes and Boots.
1837 South Church Street in Murfreesboro.
This is Dr. David Morris with Magnolia Medical Center. Do you suffer from peripheral neuropathy in your hands or feet, burning pain, balance problems, and decreased quality of life? Magnolia Medical Center can help.
Magnolia Medical Center in Murfreesboro. Online at magnoliamedicalcenters.com.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Woodbury Road Baptist Church invites you to worship with us this Sunday morning at 10:45. If you can't make it in person, listen to WGNS Sunday morning at 10:15. Find out more at woodburyroadbaptist.org. We look forward to worshiping with you this Sunday.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
This is Bill Krause on the Roundtable. We're having a delightful chat with two gentlemen whose world and experience and academic background has all been related to psychology. Life is nothing more than a circle of psychology, I think. When I teach economics, I say economics should be in the school of psychology, how people make decisions. But basically, let's talk about what does the word success mean? And Quentin, that's your byline. What does the word success mean? Can it be an overused word? Can it be
Of course it is.
setting something that people can't reach, maybe unrealistic to reach? Both gentlemen, what does success mean?
Well, personally, people, when I was growing up, success for personally meant having a husband, 2.5 children, and
and a dog and a picket
two-car,
fence.
A 2-car garage, a picket fence, yeah.
And a dog. Got to have a dog.
And a dog and some awnings. You had to have that with the neighbors. But to me, success is actually setting a goal for yourself about what would make you happy, what would make you productive, and what would make you successful. And it's something that has to be done in a careful way that's based upon your aptitude, your attitude, and your willingness to develop the necessary steps to get to whatever that goal of success would be. It's overstated because it's not money. It's certainly not fame. It really is something that's developed internally, and it can be very individualistic in terms of what success represents. And it shouldn't be challenged by what someone else says you're not successful, because it depends on what it is, and it depends on what you've done, and your level of satisfaction with that.
And prior to your point on this one of the interesting things is we as parents seek success for our children, and our interpretation of success for our children may be quite different than what their expectation or hopes or dreams or passion is for success.
That's absolutely true. So success for me is it's never to arrive. I said those who are cursed that who have arrived. Then what's next? And I've been in the IT world where people have gone and gotten the money or gotten the fame, gotten the attention, and things have gone bad for them, and they're wondering what now. So I think it's a journey. Success is a journey. There is no end goal. Success is being able to put on the diapers when you are 92 or 98. Success is, I'm alive today, that I can brush my own teeth today. So it's a continuous journey. I hope I never arrive at a place where I am successful, where other people see me as a successful person. But I myself would like to be in the journey of successes.
Okay, I see that as plateaus.
Yes,
different plateaus.
That's right, plateau of success. Okay.
You get to a certain plateau in life where you achieve, I've gotten this, and I'm at this point now. I'm successful at this point. Now let's see what else I can do that will allow me to be successful in something else.
So recently in my classrooms, I've used the word ikigai. You can Google it. It's an amazing list of like what you're good at and what you love and what society needs and what you can be paid for, and it's an interesting book as well. There's an ikigai chart out there that you can look up that talks about what is a passion, a mission, a vocation, and a profession.
How do you spell it?
IKIGAI, ikigai. Yeah. It's lovely, but students absolutely love it because they are questioning these things like what you and I are talking about. And I suppose businesses do the same. What is success? If you, as a statistician, I have to slip that in. As a statistician, if you can articulate success as a measurable point, you can go towards it and you can achieve it and then celebrate it.
Yeah, yes, you have metrics that you put in for yourself along the way.
Yes.
And you can check in those metrics to see how it's going. And the good thing about it, you can tweak them as you go along.
Right, and articulate the definition very, very clearly, but the point is to be able to, it has to be measurable.
But if it's not measurable, if it's an emotional state, and a case in point, an employee may be working at a company, doing the job, loving the people around him or her, loving the environment of the job, and success may still be interpreted, you ought to apply for the promotion. Or you ought to go out to another position where you have a higher salary, higher opportunity, higher presence. But I like what I do. And I always thought of the story of the automobile assembler at a automobile plant. And all he did for 42 years was put the rear tire on the new vehicle. Didn't you want to get promoted? Didn't you want to move up? And success can sometimes be an emotional state rather than a measurable state.
That's right. So personally, I'm an emotional state. I think as a company, as a business, it needs to be measurable.
Yeah, it needs to measure because you're talking about a group of people working together for a more common goal than it is an individualistic goal. And that goal is productivity. So the company looks at productivity metrics because it has to compete with other similar companies.
Exactly, although I do have to salute Dr. Quentin Newhouse on this one. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Newhouse when he was named Dean of Strayer University here in Nashville. And I have to say this even in memory, and that's been over 10, 12, 13 years ago, and that, Quentin, you always created an environment for faculty and students at that campus that people enjoyed coming to school, not just a faculty member, not just a staff, but students, because you created the environment. The measurement of success of Quentin Newhouse as Dean at Strayer University was based to a great degree on the emotional environment that you created, nurtured, and were highly successful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Remember, you were my assistant dean, so you had a factor in that.
I didn't even play a role.
I think what's important, though, is that as I go into a situation and I look for what works for me. As I said, my true north was to provide an atmosphere where individuals could learn. I did a few things that were unorthodox for the students' sake because I was there for the students. And I made sure that I did everything I could so the students could be successful, because I know that there were times when I was learning and I wasn't getting support, and I had to figure out other options outside of getting the support that I expected to be successful academically. So I thank you for that endorsement. But I'm an educator. I mean, I'm sure I'm like you guys. We're eternal educators. We're there for the students. It's important that they learn. It's important they're challenged. It's important they get out beyond the box. I had students who challenged me, and I had to go back and correct myself and say, "You're right." I stand corrected. This is something I didn't read up enough on, and the next time I teach that, I'm going to teach it that way. And so, the excitement is what comes on into their eyes and comes on in their minds. We know that as educators, and that's why I wanted to teach. That's why I wanted to be an administrator, because I had a chance to stroke the pen and make someone successful in a way that was unorthodox. But I knew in my heart they had the capability to do it.
And whenever I start a class, I will say the first sentence, "I am not here to teach you a thing." And they look at you, "Aren't you the teacher?" "I am not here to teach you a thing. I'm here to provide the opportunity for you to discover. If you discover, you will learn, you will retain. But if I just tell you what to hear, what to learn, what to write, what to be tested on, you will not retain. You have the opportunity to discover." How about some closing comments, Calais initially, and then Quentin?
So my closing comment would be, Dr. Newhouse mentioned True North, and I was listening as well as I was participating, is to our value system. What do we, at the end of the day, look in the mirror and say, you did a good thing? I think our value system would perhaps be the True North. And I thank Dr. Newhouse for that. So that's my closing statement. Thank you so much for having me.
And Quentin?
My closing thing would be that we need to go back to some of the old tried and true ways of living. People don't have the same concepts of family that we had when I was growing up. You're my family. You're part of my family. It goes beyond the bonds of biological. I have a daughter who's adopted, and she's never bit my daughter.
Yes.
Never bit my daughter.
Yep.
2.5 months. She's 36 now. Adopted her 2.5 months old, but she's never bit my daughter. And she did find her parents, but she says, you're first because you're my adopted dad. And so we need to go back to the tried and true techniques of what's family, who's family. And the last thing I want to say is also studies are beginning to show that people who live longer are those who have highly supportive social networks.
That's right.
And so, we've been friends for a long time. Billy, I've been friends for a long time. I have two friends who've been friends for 60 years. I've been friends for 60 years from high school. And we talk often during the course of the week, and they are my buffers. My wife here is very supportive. I'm happy in that regard. And I think that's the way we have to go back to, because we're seeing the results of unhappy families. A lot of the violence that's occurring now is because kids and individuals with unhappy families, that they had very unhappy childhood, and they did not understand the concept of support from home for their success and their reality. So that way, my point is we need to go back to that, because it's not something that's new. It's not something that's magic or rocket science. But it's basic common sense, and it's just basic love. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much, Quentin Newhouse. Thank you so much, Calais McGeelan. I will get it well. We will see you next week with a very, very special broadcast.